In journalism, there is stories you love to do. There are stories that are difficult to do, and then there are stories you absolutely must do. All relating to the letter you see on your screen, America First Legal, a FOIA request to the United States Department of State concerning the Global Disinformation Center. What this discovery disclosed is a web unlike anything we have researched before, all involved with, again, the new Global Engagement Center. You see the issue date, spring of 2016, put in place by the Obama administration. A new task force at the Department of Homeland Security is focused on domestic efforts in the United States, and the administration established the Global Engagement Center in response to the new urgency to break the recruiting efforts of violent extremists abroad. Again, foreign activity that quickly changes into something different, but it's the funding, who funded this, and who they're partnered with that is of critical relevance. It used to be the Center for Strategic Counterterrorism Communication, but now it is the Global Engagement Center. Underneath the State Department, its mission is to direct, lead, synchronize, integrate, and coordinate U.S. federal government efforts to recognize, understand, expose, and counter foreign state, and non-state propaganda and disinformation efforts aimed at undermining or influencing the policy, security, or stability of the United States, its allies, or partner nations. Focused again on disinformation, one example of the reports and information they put out. But now, America First Legal, breaking news, releases documents obtained from the FOIA lawsuit against the Department of State exposing how the Global Engagement Center carries out state propaganda through private media organizations, and what is about to be exposed to you is absolutely unbelievable. We have Gates, we have Soros, we have Clinton backers, all involved in one of the largest webs I have ever uncovered for you. And America First Legal, I have to give the thanks to, because the information they provide within is mind-boggling. That's what we're going to cover today. However, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please make sure you are still subscribed. Make sure your bell is checked so you're alerted to upcoming broadcasts. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, Lisa will put a link just above. Make sure you do. It means the world to me. And also, if you don't know by now, Lisa and I created a platform with no commercials, no interruptions, no backers other than our audience, Lisa and me. And we did that on purpose to bring you all the news and the catalog growing daily beyond what your imagination may be. And the audience has responded amazingly. We want you over at Restricted Republic to take advantage of that. Use Real Journalism as the monthly discount code, $3.99 a month for 2 years plus 14 days for free. It's an offer to bring even more people over, where we can provide you the information you need to get through this tangled web. And if you need a laugh, again, as our form of a thank you, get to we'reforkedup.com. We'll put a link just above to our most recent video, but better way, go to we'reforkedup.com, subscribe. You'll get an email every time we post a new broadcast. Hope you enjoy that. It's one way we can say thank you to all you do. But now let's get back to this broadcast. Okay, so back to the video. As you see on your screen, as a reminder again, America First Legal FOIA request comes out. They get the information back, and it is blockbuster, a monstrous discovery. The GEC, the Global Engagement Center we just covered, routinely coordinates with the global cartel of independent fact-checkers led by the Poynter Institute for Media Studies, which operates PolitiFact, and members of its International Fact-Checking Network, IFCN. We'll be covering them in great depth here because it is who is funding them that is of special relevance. So I went in and fact-checked first, myself. Went into America First Legal, pulled their documents, found the request to United States Department of State, read through it. Everything lines up with exactly what you're about to see us cover. State Department responds. Thank you. We would be pleased to discuss how to narrow the request in a manner that will facilitate prompt processing. And they do get the information back, showing you here. And the reason I show you this screen is to put everything into context. On the bottom, you see the Global Engagement Center. Now, they have locations around the globe. Know that. But up on top, you see state.gov, Global Engagement Center, and who are they communicating with? Quickly, you see Freedom House, Pointer, just to name a few, to tie everything together to show you this huge web of who's communicating about what and how they're coordinating the effort. Now we're going to begin to move a little bit faster, a lot of information to cover. Pointer Institute. As you see here, DeSantis' big Twitter announcement turned into a big Twitter mess. Remember, this is supposed to be a nonpartisan organization, just like PolitiFact, who, remember, is a part of the Pointer organization. Now go a step further. International Fact-Checking Network, also under the umbrella of Pointer. Now you're starting to figure out these are the fact-checkers of the fact-checkers. But it is their relationship, their support through their donors, major donors of the Pointer Institute, are listed at this link. So what do? Of course, we went into their tax filings just to vet out more information from you on their own website, support content, and their tax filings 2021 through 2018. And within it, there you go, the Pointer Institute for Media Studies, we find out that not only are they involved with media in Florida through Times holding company stock, Times publishing company stock. Yes, the people who are fact-checking have stock in news publications. Nonetheless, we'll go on. Schedule B, the Pointer Institute for Media Studies. This is all public documentation, by the way, and you'll start to see the contributions. This year, was year 2020, a donation of $2.7 million, $1.5 million, $757,000, $500,000, big money rolling into this institute. 2019, we could look down and see the same. Oh, there's a big donation, $5.4 million. Somebody has a very vested interest in assuring that the information flow around the globe is very consistent and fact-checked. So here on Influence Watch, the Pointer Institute for Media Studies, taking this a little bit deeper now. If you drop down into this document, you'll see the revenue of $14.6 million. Hey, I'm doing bad. $12 million in expenses, assets of $49 million. It's a big deal. But way down in the bottom, before we get to the references, sorry about that, who is funding them? In 2018 and 2019, you'll see many names you recognize. From the Charles Koch Foundation, Democracy Fund, Google News Initiative, and Open Society Foundation, but the web goes deeper than that, I promise you that. Because the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation on their website, let's drop up just a bit further. Who are they supporting through committed grants? The Pointer Institute for Media Studies. Now you know the U.S. government, George Soros, and Bill Gates are all involved in this initiative. Further backup and resources. Interesting fact about the Institute, the self-proclaimed global leader in journalism. They are funded by George Soros, Open Society Foundation, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and National Endowment for Democracy. Many other foundations. Craig Newmark, the founder of Craigslist, who donated a massive $1 million to the Institute to create this anti-fake news mechanism. Craig Newmark also, just so you remember, a Clinton campaign donor. Now, doesn't everything tie together? Nonpartisan organization by their own principles. Remember that. Further validation. We know we like to vet out everything here, but let's drop into what the FOIA request showed. You'll see here members of this vast cartel range from independent foreign journalists to professional fact-checkers to American mainstream media organizations like the Associated Press and USA Today. Notably, Pointer's IFCN, again, their consul, received a 2021 Nobel Peace Prize nomination. They launch a fact-check platform to provide accurate information to media outlets, government officials, and social influencers to counter the disinformation on the COVID-19. So, in other words, they were there to streamline communication, in their mind to assure it was accurate, and if you fell outside of that accurate narrative, you'll quickly find out you were blacklisted, you no longer existed, or you were downranked. Quickly. This was also exposed by Matt Taibbi through the Twitter releases. As further validation, we'll get there in a few seconds, and this is global. And we don't need to go through any more of their tax information, but we will go to another email conversation later shows a Global Engagement Center official thanking the IFCN International Training Management for speaking, and they start to go through the list of countries. Now, we can vet this out without having to go through all the litany of countries because the Poynter Institute tells you where they're trading in Europe, including Iceland and Greenland, South Asia, Afghanistan, Bangladesh, India, Argentina, Bolivia, Brazil, Chile, Colombia, East Asia, South Asia. Do I need to continue to go? South America? It is an international web of fact-checking and or providing guidance on what is misinformation or not misinformation. According to, again, someone not politically biased, according to their own charter, however, funded by one side of the political spectrum. Conflict? You decide. I just report on the information. We go a little bit deeper into this. Another email, they show more people how far their web actually spins. Is Africa Check, by the way, is a fact-checking organization substantially funded by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, the Google News Initiative, the Open Society Foundation. The same three I just disclosed to you are also involved in the establishment and funding of this organization to begin with. Now providing information to the Global Engagement Center, who's disseminating the information to American media, which you're going to see very quickly here. You'll see a panel that extends from Croatia to Ghana to Greece to the United States. This is a major data dump. So just bear with me while we work through it. On behalf of David Mickelson from Snopes. You see, when you don't agree with the narrative, they call you out. One of the key requirements of the IFCN certification is supposed to be transparency of funding. If anyone could parse this word salad and figure out who or what funds the Daily Caller's fact-checking arm, I'd like to know, because they didn't like what the Daily Caller had to say. So it gets thrown into the IFCN, who starts to interpret based on their commitments of the Code of Principles. Eligibility, grants, principle number 1, a commitment to nonpartisanship and fairness. Remember, one of the funding launching principles of this was the monitoring of COVID-19 information. For example, a professional fact checker, PolitiFact, which is operated by the same institute, we've got that connection drawn now, appears to rely on the GEC, the Global Engagement Center, to debunk a claim that stems from the letter that the GOP senators wrote to the Biden administration. They are debunking the Biden administration would be responsible for the GEC. The GEC is debunking information back to the Biden administration, but they're not supposed to be partisan based on a GOP letter. A monstrous conflict of interest. That is not nonpartisan, and that is not fact-checking if you're reporting to the same people and the same side of the aisle that is funding you. Do you think you're going to declare the information from the GOP true or false? Just putting the question out there. Next, we further uncover, this is America First Legal, the news outlets that had formerly respected for critical, or who had been formerly respected for critical investigative journalism are now mere mouthpieces for state media, and their journalists are eagerly willing to spread propaganda on behalf of the GEC. Now, that is the author's opinion. You would decide on what is propaganda or not. Washington Post readily jumped into the conversation to discredit the New York Post reporting on the Hunter Biden laptop. What goes around comes around. Everything's connected, isn't it? It appears this information went right through the Global Engagement Center. Again, reporting to the Biden administration. What do you think they're going to say about the Hunter Biden laptop story? On October 14, 2020, New York Post published the now infamous story based on the laptop detailing how Hunter Biden used a position of influence of his father for personal gain and with the apparent awareness of now President Biden. On the same day, an author comes in from the Washington Post, reporter from the Washington Post, covering election security, reached out to the GOC requesting a call on the more declassified Russian disinformation concerning the report that was published in the New York Post. You see there, I'm a national security reporter with the Washington Post going directly to the Global Engagement Center asking, I understand the GEC is doing a release of more declassified Russian disinformation, as they continue to call it. Can you give me a call about that? Independent news agencies calling a government organization for verification of facts. That is a very terrifying statement. October 15, 2020, she publishes an article saying the Washington Post was unable to verify the authenticity of the alleged communication, which alluded to the likelihood that the Hunter Biden laptop story was the product of a Russian intelligence operation after contacting the GEC. It's dumbfounding when I read this. Matt Taibbi, back to him. The GEC report was contradictory. On one hand, it offered reasoned evidence that a specific outlet like the Strategic Culture Foundation was partnered with the Russian Foreign Ministry, which would make it a true proxy site. However, if you even reported about a Russian source, you were considered Russian propaganda. Think about that for a moment. So if you use Sputnik in one of your articles, if you used any of their other publications, you were quickly bundled into Russian disinformation yourself, blacklisted and downstacked. It even wrapped up some CNN journalists who reported on this outside this ecosystem and were quickly put into the ecosystem of news that doesn't matter. GEC sent Twitter a series of reports on a series of topics, often employing the ecosystem concept. It reports on France attributes membership in the Yellow Vest movement as being Russian aligned. Boy, everything is Russia, isn't it? Amazing, this web they weaved. On January 19, 2021, one day before the Biden administration officially began, a Global Engagement Center public affairs officer attempted to enlist Michael Gordon of the Wall Street Journal to publish a story promoting the GEC's talking points on Russian disinformation and COVID-19. They are reaching out to a reporter. Thank you again for your time last week. Please find some follow-on information both below and attached. In addition, I want to see if you had a few minutes to chat quickly by phone today between 1 and 3:30 so that our principal deputy coordinator could provide some further context off the record. Government agency reaching out to a reporter to provide information off the record about a storyline. Some would construe that as guiding the reporter onto what should be reported, which would be considered in most circles state-run media. I told you this was a monstrous report. Nearing the end now, I promise. Meanwhile, on February 2nd, 2021, the New York Times reporter Julian Barnes obtains an introduction to the GEC through his national NSA contact for his story because they're wondering if it's going to be published. They push for it to be published. He wants to make sure it's published. Another writer comes in and says, if he's not going to, I will. This is how coordinated the effort is. The GEC's financial support of these media organizations also implicates the supposed independence of their reporting. Remember, journalists are to be independent of the government. Freedom of press was established for a reason. When you show so many links together, direct communication between the government and those independent reporters, they can no longer be deemed, in this case, in our opinion, independent reporters. That's why this discovery, this uncovering of the Global Engagement Center, as I showed you who is funding it, Bill and Melinda Gates, Open Society, the Democracy Fund, Google. This was the same organization that was used by Facebook in their own filings to fact check. And you wonder why so many conservative voices disappeared overnight. Why they're no longer at the top of the stack on any of the videos you're looking for. Because there was this effort for years to work against any narrative that they didn't agree with. And now it all comes out, once and for all, for you to see and to validate what so many of us have been saying for so many years. I love you all. Until next time, Godspeed and God bless. Justice Knight, signing out.